terrorists and armed groups bent on destabilizing the two countries bordering the Sahara. And U.S. President Barack Obama caves into the pressure and announces plans to implement reforms targeting the National Security Agency. These stories and others when we return. Welcome back. Malian President Ibrahim Abubakar Keita and his Mauritanian counterpart Mohamed Ould Abdel Aziz have promised zero tolerance for armed and terrorist groups bent on destabilizing their countries. The two heads of state were speaking during the signing of a joint anti-terrorism and mutual defense accord designed to combat terrorism in Mali and Mauritania. The two presidents, as CFI reports, have also agreed to bolster military cooperation between Nouakchott and Bamako.
The high point of this historic visit by Ibrahim Boubacar Keita to Mauritania. The Malian president and his Mauritanian counterpart, Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz, supervised the signing on Sunday in Nouakchott of a mutual defense accord. The Malian and Mauritanian armies will now use their means and capacities to work together in the fight against terrorism. The heads of both countries want to fight the Islamic jihadi threat. The President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, His Excellency Mohamed Ould Abdelaziz, and his Malian counterpart Ibrahim Boubacar Keita have agreed not to tolerate in their territories any armed or terrorist group that could destabilize either country. Mauritania and Mali share a border more than 2,200 kilometers long. The Mauritanian army has deployed troops to prevent jihadi groups still in the north of Mali from infiltrating. When he arrived in Nouakchott on Friday, Ibrahim Boubacar Keita had insisted on the need for Mauritania and Mali to strengthen their military cooperation. We have everything in common. Many things that mean we must move forward together in a world where unity among peoples is much sought after. For their joint anti-terrorist activity to be efficient, both presidents called for stepped-up concentration among all the Sahel-Saharan states. They said that only a collective regional response could effectively deal with the jihadi and drug trafficking groups.
French and African troops are now patrolling the streets of the capital of the Central African Republic as part of an effort codenamed Operation Bangui. Calm has meanwhile returned to parts of the city, but despite those efforts, fighting is still raging in the parts of Bangui, with reports of at least a dozen people killed. We have more in the CFI report.
Yard of National Police Headquarters in the Central African Republic in Bangui. These soldiers were at full attention, some in uniform but many in civilian dress. Hundreds of soldiers from the regular army have come out of hiding. They'd made themselves scarce when the Seleka rebels entered Bangui. The forced departure of former President Jotodia, replaced by the President of the National Transition Council, has changed things.
The repression is over, the pillaging is finished, the chaos is finished. The Central African people are getting their honor back. Long live the Republic.
Known as Operation Bangui, without gunfire, an intervention team is supposed to spread out and secure the city. For now, the mission involves the French and African forces, the only ones on patrol there. Since the president was forced to step down, calm has returned to several districts. People feel safer with anti-Balaka militias on the scene.
Things are getting back to normal. Markets are opening again. People are venturing out to the markets.
But the fighting continues in the capital, where dozens of dead have been reported and family members of Seleka were attacked on main streets.
On Friday, U.S. President Barack Obama is set to announce reforms he plans to make at the National Security Agency. CNN reports the president is under pressure to make changes at the spying agency that many believe has gone too far.
Wide uproar over NSA spying. President Obama will unveil how he'll keep his promise to reform government surveillance programs.
We may have to refine this further to give people more confidence, and I'm going to be working very hard on doing that. And we've got to provide more confidence to the international community.
We can find a better balance, end mass surveillance.
The president has suffered months of blowback since Edward Snowden's revelations last summer that the NSA has been collecting personal phone records on every American and spying on world leaders, including allies like Germany's Chancellor Angela Merkel. He's called in experts, tech company leaders, and in the past few days, key members of Congress.
There were many members of Congress there from both the House and the Senate who cover the ideological spectrum, who urged him to throttle back the collection of metadata on a bulk level. I hope he listens.
He's deciding whether to accept recommendations from an independent review commission that include storing personal data outside the government with a private third party, possibly phone companies, and requiring the government get a judge to approve access. A public advocate to represent Americans' privacy rights when those decisions get made, and that spying on foreign leaders get high-level approval.
We have many countries with common interests, so having a more thorough process to really look through that and don't do it just because there's an opportunity to do it.
Balancing security and privacy is a tricky political question, and critics are bound to be unsatisfied.
We can't continue to refer to ourselves as a quote-unquote free country when the United States government is collecting information on virtually every telephone call made in America, getting into people's emails, focusing on the websites that certain people are visiting.
Erin McPike, CNN, Washington.
We'll now take our second break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. And before we take leave of you, a quick reminder of the day's top stories. 21 lawyers trained in the country by Gambia Law School have been called to the bar at a ceremony presided over by Vice President Dr. Aissatou Njie Seydi. Engineers are racing against the clock to end the nightmare passengers using GPA's Banjul Bara ferry service and counter by giving the ferry Johe a new lease of life. Nouakchott and Bamako have signed an anti-terrorism and mutual defense accord as part of efforts aimed at combating armed groups and terrorists. And U.S. President Barack Obama is poised to announce changes to the operations of the powerful National Security Agency. That was all in this edition of the news. Thanks for your time, and do enjoy a range of interesting programs.